After 7 weeks of spring training, the Mets are packed up and ready to go. The bags are full, the lockers are empty. All that's left is to pack up the truck and head south to Miami to start the season. Digital Domain Park in the rear view mirror. Hello, I-95. At Digital Domain Park in Port St. Lucie, Florida, the New York Mets play the Florida Marlins. New York Mets spring training on SNY is presented on City. Mets baseball is presented in HD by IOTV. Get the best in HD free with IOTV. And a pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Port St. Lucie. Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez, Ron Darling with you today as the Mets play their final spring training game as they take on their opening night opponent, the Florida Marlins. Now, the Mets were hoping to head to Miami for the start of the season with their lineup intact. Carlos Beltran came back yesterday, played 5 innings in a big league spring training game in right field. And that's the good news. The bad news, though, is the Mets may go to opening day without Jason Bay.
Well, Jason Bay up in New York getting an MRI and getting evaluated on a strained rib cage. Hopefully it's only a strain. And here we're looking at Beltran here. He kind of turned it on here and made a nice catch diving. Of course, every time we hold our breath with Carlos, we're so Met fans are concerned about him being healthy. He's good to go. He's on the roster. Bay now is the concern. You kind of don't want to start the season without Jason Bay.
And it's interesting because Bay and Beltran only played 9 games together last year, and here they are passing like ships in the night again. If Bay's not ready to go, it would likely be Lucas Duda or Nick Evans to take his place on opening day. As for the roster, as far as the pitching is concerned, the starters have been locked in for a while, but yesterday we found out that both Pedro Beato and Blaine Boyer will be in the Mets bullpen.
Well, you know, it's a great story about Boyer, of course, coming from a lot of different teams, but pitched a lot against the Mets when he was the Atlanta Braves. But I think also the great story is Pedro Beato coming out of the Baltimore Orioles organization, a great arm, Rule 5, and the Mets are going to leave spring training this year with 2 Rule 5 players, Beato and, of course, Emus at second base.
And the guy who was literally left behind is Jason Isringhausen, who has agreed to stay here in Port St. Lucie for a couple of weeks, work on his pitching, and see what happens after that.
Well, the great thing about Izzy is that it looks like he is healthy, but with every veteran player, sometimes you want to let them be healthy for another couple of weeks before you bring him up. He was throwing 92 miles an hour this spring.
And so the final exhibition game of the spring, the Mets and the Marlins, and Chris Young, who's been spectacular this spring, will make the start for New York. Mets and Marlins, all the action on SNY. York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Citi, by NYSERDA Energy Innovation Solutions, by your Tri-State Ford dealers, and by State Farm. Today's State Farm Agent of the Day is Pat Cawley of Glendale. Mets single-game tickets for the 2011 season at Citi Field are on sale. Tickets start at $10. Visit Mets.com or call 718-507-TIXX to get your tickets. Operators are standing by. The regular season is standing by. It starts Friday night in Miami. Mets put Port St. Lucie behind them after today. First pitch coming up.
Across the country, when the economy tumbled, J.P. Morgan Chase set up new offices to work one-on-one with homeowners. Since 2009, we've helped over 250,000 Americans keep their homes. And we're reaching out to small businesses, too.
It's a holiday, but apparently it's Keith Hernandez Day.
He did not trim that. That's it, son. Let's go. a little up on the left side, pal.
But isn't that upside down? That's the problem. He's got to turn it right side up.
The problem when you trim your mustache, it's better to leave it long because you can always shorten it. If you do it too short like he did, you got to wait for it to grow back.
At least there's no gray in it. Here's your City starting lineup for the Florida Marlins. Chris Coughlin and Mike Stanton, who were both banged up earlier in the spring, have both been back and swinging the bat well for the Marlins, who bring their starting outfield today and their starting catcher, but backups on the infield. And a Class A pitcher, Joe O'Gara, will go for the Marlins on the mound. And there's 6'10" Chris Young, who will make his first start for the Mets in Philadelphia next week. This will be his final spring tune-up.
Well, the thing about Chris Young is you look at the Lincoln pitching stats for him this spring. He's been outstanding. He's only given up 3 runs, 2 of those in a solo home runs against Houston. But really, we're waiting for him to see if he was going to be healthy in spring. Once he proved that he was healthy, you just know that he's going to be effective because he's been effective his entire career.
And we'll take a look at the Mets City defense, and you can see right there, muy importante, Mr. Beltran out in right field. And you saw in the open, the nice catch he made, turned it on 100%. He's ready to go for opening day. Of course, the big question with Harris out and left is Jason Bay. But the Mets are all in all ready to go, and I'm excited.
Well, I'm excited too. How about you, Ronnie?
I'll be ready on Friday.
What about 6:45?
Yes, exactly.
Chris Coghlan will lead things off for Florida. The Mets will head down to Miami tomorrow. They'll have a workout at, what are they calling it this year? Sun Life Stadium.
Is that what it is this year?
I believe it still is.
Thank you. I'll write that down.
And of course, the Marlins are moving into their new ballpark next year. You got a peek at it?
I got a peek at it. It's beautiful. You know, it's going to be difficult to get maybe in and out of the stadium, but as far as inside and the roof, and it's just we're putting down the seats. It's going to be gorgeous.
Now, is it completely closed like in Houston or Arizona, or is it more of an umbrella like in Seattle?
More like an umbrella like in Seattle. 36,000 seats it's going to hold.
Well, the Marlins are certainly hoping that having a new ballpark will allow them to draw fans with more regularity. They're expecting 40,000 for opening night on Friday night, but somewhat less than that Saturday and Sunday. And I think 36,000 is a nice number for that franchise.
It is a nice number, and they're going to have to get all those MVPs to South Beach, get them off the beach and out to a ball game.
That's going to be difficult.
So here's Coghlan, who had knee surgery last fall and then shoulder problems early this spring. And Chris Young's first pitch fastball is high for ball one. Coghlan's had just 29 spring at bats, but he's hitting .414, so he appears to be good to go. The greater issue with Coghlan this spring is that he is now a center fielder.
Well, you can really see that almost every spring training, especially when you switch a player, Gary, they go out and do those long outfield throwing drills, and sometimes the result is a banged-up shoulder.
On a 2-0 pitch, Coghlan pops one up, and Emis retreating and struggles with it, but grabs it for the first down.
It is a very, very windy day today, and it is blowing out to left field. Sun field here, particularly later in the afternoon.
By the way, this is Brad Emis' last day as number 68. When the Mets convene on Friday, he'll be wearing number 4, which he says was always his number in college and in the minor leagues. And what better number for a second baseman than 4?
That's right.
On your scorecard and on his back. Here's Bonifacio taking a call strike. The Mets are going to keep 2 Rule 5 draft picks as you look at the Marlins manager, Edwin Rodriguez, who took over the reins mid-season last year with Florida, and Young goes head high to Bonifacio, 1-1. So he had a .500 record. The Marlins finished 2 games under .500 last year, a game ahead of the Mets in the standings. And Bonifacio cracks one toward the gap. Pagan heads back for a look, and it's off the base of the wall. And Bonifacio can fly, pulls in at second base with a 1-out double.
Well, Bonifacio, a better right-hand hitter than a left-hand hitter. He showed some pop there. That was not wind-aided. He crushed this ball.
You know, it's something to be said if you're a Marlins fan, though, when you see Bonifacio get a ball thrown right at his head, lands in the dirt, and the next pitch he hits off the center field wall.
So here's Logan Morrison. Morrison last year as a rookie hit .283. Just 23 years old. Part of the young core of this Florida team. One thing about Chris Young, he will give up fly balls, he'll give up home runs. He's a guy who works up in the strike zone without killer velocity.
And I think that's one of the reasons he's been working on that split finger kind of changeup, because he really wants to get something that he can bounce. So the hitters will swing over it.
Young last year missed most of the season. Made 4 starts late in the year for San Diego. Pitched very well, but the Padres did not want to make the investment in bringing him back, and he wound up signing with the Mets after a 2-month courtship.
Remember, he made those starts when the Padres were scuffling. You know, they had that period where they lost 10 games in a row to really lose that National League West. They won all 4 of his starts.
And interestingly enough, the Padres were not planning to use Chris Young down the stretch last year. They were planning to let him sit out the rest of the season. And some of the veteran players for the Padres went to the front office, including Adrian Gonzalez, and I think it was David Eckstein was the other, and they said, look, this is a guy who knows how to pitch. We need him right now. You got to let him go out there. And they relented and let Young pitch late in the season. And he proved to everybody that he was healthy.
You can see right now that
That wind's going to keep the ball in play for Nikias, and he stays with it. Nice job by Nikias battling the wind for the second out.
Well, you can see it starting to drift up the line.
You know, Keith, what that tells me now, if you're David Wright, the third baseman, you've got to say to yourself, anything up in the air there has got to be my ball. That's going to be too tough on the catcher.
Everybody's got to realize in every position today that ball is going to be drifting hard towards left field.
So here's Mike Stanton, who sat out the first month of spring training with a quad injury, and since coming back has just been tearing it up. He's had 15 at-bats, and he has 10 RBIs.
10 RBIs in 3 games.
So he's doing well.
If the Mets are going to get this young man out, they've got to rush him in with fastballs because he can get tied up inside, and he is a good breaking ball hitter. Bad breaking balls are the ones he crushes.
Gets under this one to left. The wind will aid it, but not enough, as Harris back on the warning track reels it in for the third out. So a double and one left. Mets come to bat in the bottom of the first with no score. Here's your city starting lineup for the Mets today. Reyes, Pagan, Wright, and Beltran, exactly the way Terry Collins wants to see it. Jason Bay out of the lineup, back in New York, getting an MRI on his sore rib cage. We'll hopefully know more about that later in the day.
Joey O'Gara on the mound for the Marlins today, a Hoosier. 31st round pick from the University of Indiana. He's one of those kids that has gotten better once he's gotten to the pro level. Everything's increased, the speed on his fastball and on his slider.
His numbers brought to you by Toyota, as Jose Reyes takes first pitch fastball for a strike.
Oh, I noticed that new graphic. Oh, nice. On top there. I like the way that evolved. Who thought of that one?
Right at the feet of Reyes and bouncing away 1-1.
That was the first time I noticed that.
What is he talking about?
The top bar, when it opens up, it opens up like a, I don't know what the heck it is, but it's cool.
It opens up like a package, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Keith, here's TV 101. Do you know what that strip at the top is called?
What's it called?
That's called the bug.
Oh, I don't care.
Out to center field. And Coughlin drifting back with the wind, and he runs it down. Oh, welcome to a windy day in Port St. Lucie. Coughlin just kept to keep on going.
Well, the outfielders today are everybody, as I said, but particularly the outfielders. They're just going to have to play a little bit deeper.
Number 16, Angel Pagan.
So one long out, and here's Angel Pagan, who's had himself a terrific spring, hitting at .296 with 3 home runs.
was intrigued by Angel when he got off one of the bus trips and he said his back had tightened up a little bit. That's an old ploy in the old days that you'd use and say, you know what, I'm telling you, Skip, I need to not make a bus ride the rest of the trip, rest of the spring.
Angel having a good spring. I think Reyes has swung the bat well. His numbers aren't there, but he's looked terrific at the plate.
You know, it's unfortunate if the Mets have to go into the season without Bay, but you look up and down this lineup right now, and you know, I know we said the same thing coming out of spring training last year, and it didn't quite work out that way, but you'd have to think that the Mets are going to be a good offensive team this year.
I would be inclined to agree. You got Ike Davis that gives them some balance there. Of course, you got a lot of switch hitters in the lineup. Beltran, Reyes, Pagan. To me, that's big.
Pagan takes one up the middle, and the Mets have their first base runner of the game.
I'll take a look at the Geico Marlins defense. You can see Mr. Stanton out there not only hits with power, he's got a strong arm. Coughlin, as Ronnie said earlier, going to center field, got the sore shoulder. It seems to be okay. This has always been a club that's not a great defensive ball club. They've always mashed, and we'll see with the loss of Dan Uggla how they adjust offensively, if they're still going to be that offensive powerhouse.
Here's David Wright, who's finishing the spring very strong. Hit an opposite field 3-run homer yesterday in Vieira against the Nationals. Hit it off Drew Storen. So
what a spring training he's had, though. Storen just awful.
Well, David,
ERA in the 11s.
The last home game, David hit the ball hard all 3 times at bat. That we televised it, and I think it was around 4 days ago, and that's the best I've seen him swing in a while, Ron. And he's just, because of the bat speed, he got his bat speed back. He's seemed to cut down on that long swing he developed over the last 3 years.
And he's taken away a lot of the pre-swing movement. He's worked a lot with Dave Hudgens to try and simplify things.
And there's also been a method to his madness. He said coming into spring training he was going to not be afraid to hit with 2 strikes in the first 10 games of spring training. Get himself back to where early in his career he was about as good a 2-strike hitter as there was in the league.
Well, one thing over the last 2 years with David is the National League pitching started pitching him more inside. And then, of course, we know about when he got clunked in the head against the Giants. I mean, he was hit as hard as you can get hit. But still, any good hitter, you've got to establish inside.
And really, for most hitters, are not going to hit a quality pitch inside anyways. But the veteran hitters, and David is a veteran hitter now, look inside once in a while. And if you're a pitcher and you go in and someone takes you out of the park on an inside fastball, you're reluctant to go back in there again.
Exactly, and I'll add something to that story, although I said it a million times. Nice off-speed pitch right there.
So that's the second out.
It's like a splitter, Ronnie, huh? Dropping out.
And that's just a quality pitch here. Up in the count, span the strike zone.
Luke Rock told me, and here's Carlos stepping in. And this is the big key for the season, obviously, for the Mets, keeping this man healthy. And the question is he going to be able to withstand the 162-game schedule?
He's looked fine swinging the bat. That doesn't really appear to be an issue for Carlos right now. He's swung the bat well from both sides of the plate when he's had a chance to play. But how both those knees are going to hold up is certainly a question.
Would you be happy, Gary, getting 120 games out of Carlos?
Well, Terry has already said he's probably going to play him maybe 5 out of 7 games to begin the season. So I think that would be a reasonable number. And he cracks one toward the gap in right center field. Pagan will go to third, bobbled by Stanton, but Beltran is going to settle for one base as Pagan stops at third. Well, Carlos continues to hit the ball hard.
That's his pitch right there. We've seen Carlos for many years now. Can you believe it's the last year of his contract? And that ball out over the plate, belt high, mid-thigh to belt high. That is his zone where you just don't want to pitch him. And look what he does with this. Just good contact, eye in the ball.
So runners at the corners with 2 down, and here's Ike Davis. Ike having a fine spring. as he looks to take the next step forward after his very good rookie year last year.
Not holding his hands as high this spring. Looks like he's dropped them just a tad. He's still got that movement down and in to his body, but not so severe now because he's lowered his hands around 6 inches. And to me, you know, like I agree with Ralph Kiner, Ron Garrett, you can't change a hitter. This is just a minor tinkering. You lower the hands. If he feels comfortable with it, if Ike feels comfortable, then fine. Look what happened with Bay. They did a little tinkering with Bay. He didn't like it. He went back to his old way and started hitting the ball great.
Out to left field, and Morrison drifts over, and that'll end the inning. But the Mets with 2 hits, leave 2 after 1. Mets and Marlins, no score. Chris Young back to the mound for the 2nd inning with no score. Greg Dobbs will lead things off for Florida. Dobbs, the veteran, former Philly. Dobbs having a terrific spring after a lost season last year in which he hit just 196 for Philadelphia. And looking to be the prime left-handed pinch hitter for the Marlins this season. Let's check in with Kevin Burkhardt. Kevin?
Oh, guys, you know, the Mets pretty much know their squad now. That'll go down to Miami to take on the Marlins. And this guy is on it. We haven't heard from him yet this spring. Chin Lung Hu. And Chin Lung, congratulations on that. And you're just telling me it's the 2nd time you're making a team out of opening day. The Dodgers in 08. What is the feeling, though, to, when you get the tap on the shoulder and say, hey, congratulations, you've made the team, and you're gonna break camp with it?
You know what? Just kind of change the team. You know, like I'm the Dodgers and I'm not with the Mets. You know. I'm pretty comfortable here because of manager TC and there's a great coach staff here, so you know I'm happy to be here.
What did you know about Terry? I mean, what did you get to learn about him when he was with the Dodgers? And is he the same guy that you remember in the Dodgers organization?
Yeah, you know TC is a guy. The guy's like he's just not quiet. He just he likes he's a lot of energy on it because I like you know he's talked to everybody. You know he tried to. He works hard, and you know we want to work hard for him too.
What you know we've watched you play defense this camp as Young registers a strikeout, and we've seen the range and the arm. How did you develop that great arm? How did you get that great throwing arm?
You know I just keep working hard. You know with chips, and we was like extra grumble. You know we drawing like after BP. You know like just how you do. You know you try to get stronger, get ready.
When you look forward to this season now, what does this team expect? What do you expect from this team this year?
It's my situation. I try to play like middle infielder a little bit. You know, try to help team win. Like you know, late in the game, and just try to get on base. Like you know, let a big guy can drive me in.
Can you play first base too?
No, I'm not trying yet.
Haven't tried yet.
Yeah.
So basically, second, short, and third.
Yeah.
You know, where do you think you fit most comfortably in the batting order? I mean, I know you'll play whenever Terry tells you to play, but where do you like batting in the order? Does it matter?
I was like, I was always like mentally I was his second, Second. It doesn't matter, like different situation, like just do your job, and then it doesn't matter if you third, first, eight, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter wherever they go. Well, Chin Lung, congrats on making the team. We look forward to seeing you soon. Okay.
Thank you.
Chin Lung Hu, and guys, we've seen him, but if Met fans haven't seen him, a guy can play a little D, so we'll get to watch that during the season. Back to you.
Okay, Kevin. Was Kevin going for the humor there, asking if who would ever played first base?
I think he was. I think he was a little lost in translation. But the thing about Who, for Met fans, the more the Mets win, the more you will see Who on the field.
Well, he is a spectacular defensive player. How much he'll hit remains to be seen. John Buck takes high ball 4, and the Marlins catcher is aboard. So the first walk given up by Chris Young. 1 out and 1 on, and here's the veteran Wes Helms. Not doing much hitting this spring, but Helms is a guy who the Marlins love for his leadership, clubhouse demeanor, and every once in a while he'll throw in a big hit for you.
Oh, we got the big home run in that one that ended the Mets season. What is that, Garrett? 09 or 8? 08. I forget. We hit the back-to-back home runs.
Pick a year, buddy.
That was 08. Yes. The back-to-back to beat
last game at Shea.
Yep.
Well, Helms is kind of like the guy that wears the badge in that clubhouse. He really runs it and tries to keep everyone on the same page, and that's the winning page. And also is not afraid to say what he has to say, and it doesn't matter if it's Hanley Ramirez or whoever. He will drop it on you if you're not playing correctly. I remember, well, Keith, you would do that, but less than Ray Knight would do that on our team. He had no problem calling someone out. I played with a guy in Oakland, Carney Lansford, who had no problem embarrassing you if you did not play the game right.
Carney's now the hitting coach in Colorado, right?
I saw him pick a fight with Canseco one night because Canseco didn't hustle after a ball, and I like two big men.
Helms out to left center, angling on a Pagan, and that's the second out. Carney Lansford's going to have a lot of fun being the hitting coach in Colorado. That is some team that they've put together there.
They really have, and some young talent. And the thing about Carney, was such a big player. Third baseman, probably 6'2", barrel-chested, maybe 220, 230. But he was more of a singles hitter and won a batting crown, I believe, when he was with the Angels.
Yeah, absolutely.
2 out. Here's Donnie Murphy, the journeyman player who may well be the starting opening day third baseman for the Marlins. Nicky is back for a look, but that'll make it to the crowd.
Well, Matt Dominguez, the big highly touted rookie, I guess he was invited to camp, was penned in to be the starting third baseman. He had a terrible spring, got sent down, and I thought that was a little bit too much expectation.
Yeah.
They say he only had Double-A experience last year, and the kid struggled. But what I didn't like reading in the paper was to go down and work on his bat speed, and that to me right there is a
what does that mean?
Bat speed means,
how do you work on your bat speed?
You don't.
Whenever I hear that, I mean,
That means you have slider speed bat, which is not a very good thing.
And that's not going to change.
Of course.
Well, I was surprised. I thought that when Kansas City released Pedro Feliz a few days ago that the Marlins would snap him up, because obviously they need a third baseman, and that's no knock on Murphy, but Murphy's a guy who's been a backup player, minor leaguer for most of his career. Surprised me how quickly Feliz has fallen out of favor in terms of the way he is viewed, because a couple of years ago he was a contributing player to a winning team. And Murphy takes a call third strike. 2 Ks in the inning for Young, both on call third strikes. And we go to the bottom of the second with no score.
Get a breakdown of this weekend's Final Four matchups, plus an inside look at the Mets and Yanks as they gear up for opening day in the Wheelhouse, presented by Pepsi, part of the New York Sports Local, today and every weekday at 5:30 on SNY. Willie Harris leads off the home second. Harris will be on the ball club as a backup outfielder, left-hand hitter off the bench. That's brought in both Willie Harris and Scott Hairston to give them some pop off the bench, both in double digits in home runs last year. But Willie hit just 183 last season for the Nationals and expects to do far better than that.
Well, he has all the defensive skills. You would like to see him take more pitches, get a few more bases on balls, those kind of things. Use his speed.
Another chance for Morrison in left field, and Harris retired for the first out.
I don't know if you guys feel the same way as I do, but Harris and Hairston, 2 H's on the bench. Gary, you were talking about it before with who, but they're both good citizens, the kind of guys you want on the bench, kind of guys that are pulling for everyone, not the guys that talk and want more playing time. Those are the guys you want.
Talk is a very nice word. Kind of moan and groan.
Moan and groan is
for lack of a better word. Chirp. Well, think of a better one.
No, I know the best one. We can't use it yet. We could use it, but only once. That'd be it.
Well, that's what they say. You can say anything on TV once. Brad Emis, who turned 25 on Monday, is going to make his major league debut as the Mets starting second baseman on Friday night. And he pops this one up into shallow left. Morrison doing a day's work out there, and that's his third straight putout. 2 away. And that'll bring up the catcher, Mike Nickius. Now, you know, Nickius had a pretty good idea he was going to be on the opening day roster all along because of Ronnie Paulino's continuing suspension. He's got 8 more games to serve. But now with the health problems that Paulino is suffering through, some stomach and colon issues, it looks like that when Paulino's suspension is up, he might have to go on the disabled list. And that means that much more big league time for Nickius, who will be Josh Tolley's backup.
Hey, when opportunity knocks.
Nickius has developed into a pitcher's favorite, too. Knows how to call a game. He's done his time. It's time for him to get a shot.
28 years old. Had 10 big league at bats with the Mets last year as he pokes one foul.
Was it Chicago where he opened up his first start against the Cubs, right?
I think that's right.
By the way, did you see the schedule at Wrigley this year? Got 3-game series there. First 2 games are night games.
Yeah, 8:05, right?
Can you believe that? Can you believe that? I'm going to file a complaint to the commissioner.
You know, Rush Street is open late.
I'm talking about dinner. Having dinner.
Late dinner.
Look into
Port St. Lucie. The third inning is brought to you by freescore.com. 3 credit scores, 1 place. Chris Young's allowed just 1 hit over the first 2 innings in his final tune-up. And the Marlins pitcher Joey O'Gara will lead off.
6'7". All these big, tall drinks of water. These pitchers are giants today.
Right. They have Volstad. Chris Volstad is 6'7". Johnson's got to be every bit of 6'6", 6'7".
Phillies always had tall pitchers back in the 70s. They had Carlton. They had Wayne Twitchell was a giant.
Well, you had the former basketball player Reed, right?
Yes. Ron Reed and Larry Christensen was a giant. Didn't want to get in a fight with those guys. With Luzinski. No thanks.
Well, the Mets in the early 90s had a pitcher who matched Randy Johnson as the tallest in baseball history. Do you remember Eric Hillman?
The left-hander.
That's
sure
right.
Who wound up pitching in Japan, where they have very short doorways. You had to do a lot of bending over.
Pirates had Bibby. Jim Bibby was a giant.
Was he could hold, was it 6 or 8 baseballs in one hand? I just remember.
I played in AAA with Bibby in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They got him from the Texas Rangers in a trade. We used to call him Bibby.
Jim Bibby first came up with the Mets. That's just outside, ball 4, and so Young walks the opposing pitcher. His second walk of the day.
Jim and Henry were brothers, right?
Correct.
Right. Yeah. Henry Bibby, who played for UCLA and for the Knicks.
A little politics now.
Bibby,
Is that right?
Yeah. Henry Bibby.
Yeah, I think so.
Involved in
Yes.
Detroit politics.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, you think of Dave Bing.
Dave Bing. Okay,
He's the mayor.
All right.
The mayor of Detroit.
Henry Bibby is Mike Bibby's father, right?
That's right.
So here is Chris Coughlin, who popped up to second base his first trip, and he spins away 1-0. So the Mets playing for the bunt with the corners coming in. And one of those corner infielders nearly killed the other yesterday. I don't think anybody has video of the play, but this is what happened. The Nats had a runner at second base, and Mike Morse got a base hit to left field. Lucas Duda's playing left, and threw a strike to the cutoff man, David Wright. So the runner stops at third, and David wheels and sees Morse taking a turn at first base. So he fires to first, and Ike catches the ball as Coughlin hits one foul. Now, Ike does not put a tag down on Morse, but he does see that I think it was Brian Bixler who was the runner and stopped at third, took a little turn at third base, and so he winds up and fires it back across the diamond where Reyes has gone to cover third. The only problem was David Wright, who had made the throw to first, was still in the direct path between Davis and Reyes and was not expecting the ball as the ball bounces away from Nickius, and O'Gara goes to second. So David sees this ball coming right at his chest, and he doesn't have enough time to duck, so he puts up his glove hand, and Davis's throw knocks the glove off David's hand, and it sails about 25 feet away toward third base with the ball. I talked to all 3 guys about it today, and Reyes, his eyes got wide talking about it. I said, I thought he was going to kill him.
Well, other than the pitchers, like Davis probably has the best arm on the team.
Coughlin drives one to right against the wind. Beltran with a look, and that one's off the wall. O'Gara tiptoes to third, but he'll score easily. And Coughlin has an RBI double to put the Marlins in front 1-0.
You see Beltran playing it off the wall. Got a funny carom there. He's not. Carlos knows the run's going to score easily, and it's not away from him enough towards a potential triple here. But nice at bat by Coughlin.
But you have to say, Keith, that when you play right field, the corner outfield, catching the ball off the wall is something that is happenstance, happens very often. Very rarely does that happen in center field.
That's a very good point. Fence is shorter.
Yeah.
Let's play for the bunt with Bonifacio. And he swings and grounds one to second. Coughlin got a lead jump coming off second base. Not sure what that was all about.
I don't know what he was thinking.
But he moves over to third. But the other thing about watching Beltran approach that ball is we've seen Carlos run in a straight line, and when he needs to turn it on, he's been able to do that. But you saw as he tried to move to his left, and you wonder what his lateral movement is like right now with the brace on the right knee and the tendonitis that he's working through in the left knee.
Well, we're going to find out because we're going to see him play. He has not played a lot of games. We have not been able to observe him other than drills, and so we'll get a first-hand experience.
In a right center field, tagging at third is Coghlan. Pagan will take charge, backpedaling, so Coghlan will be able to score easily to make it 2-0 Florida. So a sacrifice fly for Logan Morrison to bring in the second run. And I think every ball out there in right field is something of a test for Carlos. It just so happened that yesterday, in the first game that he played, the first chance that he had to make the sliding catch that we showed earlier.
And another thing too, Garen Ron, is that he's going to have to learn to negotiate that little concave out there in the Mo zone where it's angular, and he's going to get some funny caroms off that wall.
I think that's the biggest part of the change, is that I think most people think conventionally if you move someone out of center field because they might lack the skills or the range anymore, as you made that great play in yesterday's game. Right field is by far the most difficult field to play at Citi Field.
You know, when Carlos was in his prime, he always played a deep center field, and I just think he's going to have to play a deep right field, and it's easier for him to get going forward to catch a ball hit shallow than it is maybe to go back.
And we've seen that already yesterday and today. He's playing fairly deep in right field, even against right-hand hitters who are not big power hitters.
And we've also seen that today to start, that puts a lot of importance on Brad Emus and his ability to go back on pop-ups behind him. You know, the more range he has, the better it'll be for Carlos.
2-2 to Mike Stanton, who fly deep to left his first time. And he lays off the breaking ball, and it's 3-2.
A good eye right there. Not a bad breaking pitch. Just off the plate.
31-year-old Chris Young, former two-sport star at Princeton. He was as good a passing center in that Princeton offense as I've ever seen.
You got to hit those cutters, right? Back door all day long.
He'd hold that ball at his chest at the head of the key and had such a sense of calm about him. He never looked ruffled. That's a good quality for a pitcher,
yes,
too.
Yes, it is.
Nothing happens till you get rid of the ball. And he just misses ball 4, and Stanton's aboard. Second walk of the inning and the third of the game for Young.
Stanton showing a lot of patience in that at bat.
Unusual a bit of wildness here. Really, the inning got started with that walk to the pitcher, but I think the Mets pitchers, and I'm talking about the guys that have made the ball club, have done a great job all spring training of limiting their walks. Something that I thought Dan Worthen did a fantastic job last season, coming off that 2009 season.
Of course, the flip side was last year they gave up 12 grand slams. Maybe too many strikes. Here's Greg Dobbs, and he rips one down the right field line, and that's a fair ball going to the corner. Stanton will go to third and be held up there as Beltran played that carom nicely. And stopping at first base is Dobbs. And Beltran couldn't have played that ball much better.
Well, Dobbs, how do you not get a double here? Got a sack of potatoes on your back or what?
Barehanded here.
Oh, it was a big carom. I see. Yes, right to Carlos. That was a nice carom for the Mets. That ball goes down in the corner. Stanton scores.
So 2 hits and 2 walks in the inning. 2 runs are in. And here's John Buck, who walked his first time up. The Marlins did something that they rarely do. They signed Buck as a free agent, gave him a 3-year contract, about $18 million, after a very good year in Toronto last year. Of course, every hitter in Toronto last year had a big year, at least in terms of home runs.
Well, do you see they moved Jose Bautista's going to play primarily right field now.
So he'll hit only 52 home runs this year?
And Edwin Encarnacion is going to play third base.
We will see what kind of year he has off that big year he had last year. That's for sure. Can he match it?
Well, Baseball history will tell you that players who have aberrational home run years generally don't match them.
I'm telling you, from 89 to 90, that was the case with me. You know, I had the big year in 89, and then 90 just could not find it. Could not find the stroke.
Hit that one in 89.
That's right. No, 2 in a row. I had 2 in 89.
Buck takes a cut, misses 2 and 1. But you think of the guys like Davey Johnson and Brady Anderson, the guys who had the one big home run year after
Kevin Elster,
right?
late in his career.
Generally doesn't happen again, at least not to that extent. Move the shoulder. 3-1.
This is the first time I've seen Chris Young overthrowing just a bit. This is a good game to play with yourself as far as knowing that you have guys on base. You've given up a couple of runs. How can you limit the damage? This out is huge for him.
Now behind 3-1. And he misses high ball 4. So he's really struggling with his fastball command. And he's now issued 4 walks. And Dan Worth is going to take a trip to the mound.
Well, I think one of the hardest things to do, wouldn't it, is if you're a pitching coach and you have to come to talk to a 6-foot 10-inch pitcher who primarily gets and makes most of his outs high in the strike zone, and now he's missing high. You know, how do you alter that?
Well, number one, you got to raise your head up and your neck arched back and look him in the eye.
That's the first.
Or bring a milk crate out to the mound with you.
No, the key is you stand on the rubber at the mound, and you take Chris and you position him down the mound a little bit. That way you're more on even terms.
Sending him downstage.
These are always the toughest starts. Chris has been ready. You've seen his line, 6 shutout innings his last start. I mean, he is ready to go. So sometimes these last starts before your initial start into the season is always kind of a rough one.
So here's Wes Helms with the bases loaded and 2 out with 2 runs already in. And Young throws a first pitch fastball for a strike. Helms flying to center his first time.
I always like the pitcher in trouble like this and got him with bases loaded. Fastball first pitch, I'm on it. I don't care what corner it's on, preferably down the middle.
And he gets another fastball and fouls it off.
You got a pitcher in trouble, Gary. He's missing with his breaking stuff like Young has been missing and struggling. He's walked 3 batters. Don't let him get ahead of you with a fastball first pitch.
But Keith, one of the things you love is when a pitcher gets in trouble, he goes to that number 1.
Yep.
Doesn't try to fool around with the corners and the breaking pitches.
Now on 0-2. And Helms able to stop the swing on the slider. 1-2. And he struck him out. So Young bounces back to fan Wes Helms and strand 3. Marlins score 2-0 Florida. Enjoy a Mets game this season at Citi Field in BJ's Clubhouse. Tickets start at $10 for kids and $20 for adults. Plus, Mr. Met visits every game. Call 718-507-TIXX or visit Mets.com now. Chris Young will lead off for the Mets in the bottom of the third. And Joey O'Gara misses away for ball one. Young, a lifetime 137 hitter. He's got one home run to his credit. Looks like Frank Howard up there. Whoa. Bangs one up the middle. Do you remember watching Hondo play? You old enough to,
yes.
to have seen him play?
Yeah.
I mean, he was as imposing a figure at the plate as I've ever seen.
I talked to some pitchers that faced him at that time. He was the only hitter. When he got in the batter's box, he took up the whole rectangle. Like, you know, his stomach was on the inside corner. His rear end was on the back corner. He stood in the back, wide stance, and 500-foot home runs.
Or strikeout.
Reyes bounces one, and it's grabbed by Helms, who gets the out at second. So Young is erased. Mets will settle for that trade. Get Young in the dugout, and Reyes at first with one out, with Angel Pagan coming up.
You know, you talk about Frank, and just touch one more point. He was, of all the Dodger teams that I grew up with in San Francisco when I played the Giants, those old Dodger teams, Frank was so out of the norm of what the Dodger teams were built to be, which was bunting, hitting, and running. Then you had this monster, enormous man that hit either home runs or struck out amongst all these little, like an elephant amongst a bunch of ants.
Pagan singled up the middle his first time up.
He was still imposing when he was a coach and a manager for the Mets. If Met fans remember the last part of '83, he was the manager.
Well, I have a strong, vivid vision of Frank when he was a coach with the Mets. And that was after a game, Hondo and lifted
Craig Swan
free weights in the sauna in his jockstrap. That was a little too much to take right there.
That might be more imagery than we need.
I opened the door. I said, "Oh, hi, Frank."
You passed on the sauna that day? Good choice.
Later now, Jose. Go.
There's a strike, 1 and 2 to Pagan.
But he used to have those. Go ahead, Gary.
I was just going to say it was fun just watching Hondo eat breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
The man could eat more food than any other human being I've ever seen.
He was a pill. He was great to be around.
Great upbeat attitude. Hardest worker you've ever seen.
Throw you BT all day long.
All day long. And he used to love, he had his little sayings, and he would come up to you and say, "What were you thinking there, son? That was a piece of cheese. You got to turn the fan on."
They're wrapping around a foul pole.
2-2 to Pagan, and the off-speed pitch misses, and a full count to Angel. Of work for Angel in center field this year, with Beltran's mobility questionable in right, potential of Jason Bay missing some time early in the season. Reyes runs, Pagan walks, and the Mets have 2 men on. We're hoping that by the end of the broadcast we might have more news on Jason Bay, but all we know is that he's back in New York and getting an MRI on that rib cage. Now the Mets have to set their roster for opening day by 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, and there's every chance they'll use every one of the hours available to them to make a decision.
And those are the injuries that are new in today's game. The abdominal injuries, the rib cage injuries. I think a lot of it has to do with these guys doing a lot of the core exercises, and I really think it's overdone.
David Wright struck out his first time, and Buck knocks it down nicely. He throws it into center field, and the runners will move up. Well, it was a good idea by Buck because Reyes had taken a couple of phantom strides toward third. He just made a terrible throw.
Well, Reyes will make you do that, and you know that you've got great speed. great quickness. He had him. He had a chance for him. It was the right play. I think Reyes would have got back. But he threw that one up into Dade County.
So it's an error on Buck, and the tying runs are in scoring position with 1 out. Now you talk about the injury to Bay being something new. Something that's not new to baseball that Bay went through last year but is getting more attention are concussions. And of course this has been a theme throughout sports over the last few years, getting a little bit better of a handle as that ball gets away from Buck, and that'll allow Reyes to score the first Met run. They cut the Marlins lead to 2-1.
Well, this is not going to help. The play that he threw into center field, Buck, he backhanded a curveball in the dirt. Watch his play here on a fastball down and in. That is not correct fundamentals. That's going to really hurt your team. A sinker down and in, you've got to be able to block that ball with guys on second and third. That's something Buck's going to have to work on or change.
So now Pagan is at third. The infield back with 1 out. A 3-0 count to right. And David lines one into center field to tie up the game. He's swinging 3-0. I haven't seen David do much of that throughout his career. And the Mets get even at 2.
I love that play. David's been around long enough. He knows what he wants. 3-0, right, Garrett? Keith?
Yep, I agree. In spring training, you get a fastball. It's a high fastball. Go get it. Nice top hand on that ball.
And David's day of work is done. We'll get a pinch runner for him at first base. That's Daniel Murphy. Now Beltran pulls one down to first. Helms gets the out at second. And the relay by Donnie Murphy in time for the 3-6-3 double play. Mets score 2 and get even. Changes for the Mets as we go to the fourth. Chin Lung Hu comes in to play shortstop, fresh off his conversation with Kevin. And Daniel Murphy is now at third as Donnie Murphy leads off for the Marlins and fouls one off. Murphy struck out his first time up. Chris Young trying to bounce back after a difficult third inning that saw him walk 3 and give up 2 runs. Let's check in with Kevin.
You know, joined by Scott Hairston, and well, boy, from the inter-squad game when you hit a couple of bombs in that game, it never really stopped. I mean, do you hit any balls that aren't screaming line drives? Because we haven't seen it yet this spring, Scott.
I've seen them. Yeah, you know, it's always good to get off to a good start, you know, and yeah, that's what you want to do. You want to establish your swing early, and I was able to work with Dave Hudgens, our hitting coach, and he got me right away. So I felt great this spring, and hopefully it'll carry on to the regular season.
We've talked a lot about Dave and how he's worked with some of the players. You say he got you right. How?
We did a lot of work in the cage early. You know, what I like about Dave is he asked me, hey, you know, what do you feel like you need to work on now? He said, I don't know too much about you. And that's great. You know, he wasn't trying to change anything right away. So I was very comfortable working with him.
What did you think you needed coming here?
You know, I need to stay inside the ball more. You know, I think when you first get into camp, you're trying to do too much right away. And as a right-handed hitter, you start pulling off the ball and hooking balls down the line instead of hitting them up the middle. So, yeah, that's why I kept my focus, keeping my hand inside the ball and driving up the middle. And the swings felt great since the beginning of spring.
And I imagine, you know, you say try to do too much early, but especially when you come to a new team, right? I mean, you want to impress your new employers, new teammates, that type of thing. I mean, do you feel that, you know, getting a chance to come to a new team this year?
Yeah, I think everybody does that wasn't on this team last year. You know, you want to prove yourself as a player, and you want to establish yourself early and show them that you can play. And, you know, I think it was a comfort level that you try to achieve early on, and I was able to do that. You know, the coaching staff has been great, the players have been great, especially the ones that have been around a long time. So I think we're going to have a lot of fun this year.
Good start to the inning for Chris Young. 2 quick outs here after struggling a little bit last inning. That dynamic involved in being a bench player. You know, when guys were talking about a little bit earlier, you know, yourself and Willie Harris, guys like that have been able to, you know, whether it's starting for 7 days in a row or being on the bench for 4 days in a row and coming out and providing the big pinch hit. What is the thing that's needed the most to be able to put yourself in that role and do it well?
I think mentally, that's the most important thing. And obviously, it's physically hard to do to stay in shape if you're not playing every day, but I think it's the biggest mentally. You know, I think it takes experience to handle that situation, and me and Willie have gotten that experience.
I look forward to seeing you play, all right?
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Good inning for Chris Young. Scott Hairston, thanks. Come back with more from Digital Domain Park.
And Ike pulls one right down to Gran, who gets involved quickly. One pitch and one out in the home fourth. And we started talking a couple of innings ago about concussions and how much attention has now been paid to them throughout sports. And baseball made a move a couple of days ago that I think is of interest. You know, there's the 60-day disabled list and there's the 15-day disabled list. But baseball has added a special 7-day disabled list, particularly for head injuries. And I think it's an interesting move because the feeling had been that perhaps teams, when a player suffered a mild concussion, were avoiding putting those players immediately on the disabled list, as Morrison squeezes that one in left field, because they figured a player would be out 3, 4, 5 days. They didn't want to put them on the 15-day disabled list. Now they're creating more of an incentive to sit those players down at least for a week.
And I think that is a great move. You know, you mentioned the disabled list, 60 and 15. You had the bereavement list, you know, when you lost a loved one. This allows teams a chance to really address something that's become very serious in baseball, and that is, Justin Morneau's trying to come back from it. Jason Bay, of course, last season we saw with Ryan Church was a big problem with the Mets. It allows teams to act immediately, swiftly, and give these players a chance to, for lack of a better phrase, clear their head.
You know, you guys played 20, 25 years ago, and we know that there's more information about concussion now, and we know that it's being handled in a more professional way. But do you think the incidence of concussion in baseball and across sports is greater now than it was, or are we just recognizing it more?
We're recognizing it more, I believe. You always had it in the game, Gary. It's just, you were not a man if you didn't go out there and play the next day.
Emus goes down looking to end the fourth. Chris Young back to the mound for the fifth. There's your Acela fifth inning recap. Each team scoring twice in the third inning. Chris Young facing 8 batters, but leaving them loaded in that third, striking out Wes Helms in a big spot. And then the Mets coming back to tie it in the bottom of the third. Young with 65 pitches over the first 4 innings faces Emilio Bonifacio leading off in the 5th. Bonifacio doubled off the fence in right center back in the first, and he takes a breaking ball for a strike. We got short-circuited by a quick inning when we were talking about concussions in the last inning. It's Bonifacio laces one to center, but Pagan right there, one away.
I just wanted to add one point. In 1980, I lost the batting title by a point to Buckner. I'd have won the batting crown 2 years in a row. And I got in a collision. I was red hot in Chicago in a day game. Buckner and I collided at first base. I was running to first base. I had 12 stitches under my chin, and Buckner had 18 on his eyebrow, and I got knocked out. I mean, I was running full speed, and the videotape, I just dropped like I ran into a brick wall. And I remember I was on my back, and I looked up and I saw the blood on my beautiful birds and my uniform. And I passed out. So to make a long story short, because we're having another quickie here, I missed around 3 games. Oh my goodness!
Who lost that ball in the sun, and Morrison winds up at second base. And he was having trouble with that the moment it went up.
And that's good hustle by Morrison here. And there you go, backpedaling. You got to know the wind. He had his glasses on. He just got fooled by the wind. But getting back to the question being E6, I missed the remaining games in the series in Chicago. It was the first game of the series, so I missed 2 games. We flew on to Scott Cousins pinch running for Morrison. We moved to Pittsburgh, and I said I can go. I was overnight in the hospital in Chicago, and Candelaria was pitching, and I proceeded to take a golden sombrero. He struck me out 4 times. And I continued to play, Gary, after that. And I just was cut a little bit, got sidetracked, and then I got hot again. I had no ill effects after.
But you're a little foggy for a few days.
It cost me the batting time.
Yeah.
I lost by a point to Buckner.
So if that had happened today, you probably would not have been in the lineup against
I probably
Candelaria.
would have been out around 5-6 games and maybe a week. And I remember Ted Simmons coming up to me after I struck out 4 times, and I was fine. I mean, it happens. I thought I had good cuts, but
but you had good swings. It was the contact that was the problem.
But you know, you get a player like a Justin Morneau last year who suffers a concussion and misses half a season. Now, is it that a guy who would have that severe a concussion 25 years ago would have come back and played a week later? Or is it that we just didn't hear about it? I mean, that's the kind of thing that I'm trying to get a handle on, because that's an enormous period of time for a guy to miss who was a star player, and I don't recall those things ever happening.
Yeah, I don't think with the severity of Morneau's that you would have played again. But Jason Bay might have come back earlier in the day, because I think at the end of the year he probably could have played if the Mets were in a different circumstance. So Jason would have probably came back. And now we went to commercial, I was saying, because you weren't considered macho if you didn't play. I am on the side of today, taking care of the athlete, making sure that his head is fine.
How about back in the day when they didn't wear helmets, Gary?
Yeah, well, I'm sure that there were a lot of concussions in those days, as Enos makes a nice leaping grab of the Greg Dobbs line drive to get Chris Young through the top of the 5th. Perfect timing by Enos.
Halfway through, tied at 2.
SNY is giving back to local youth baseball leagues with the SNY Play Ball Award presented by Sports Authority, offering $5,000 grants to 6 in-need organizations to be used for new equipment, uniforms, or field improvements. For more information and details on how to apply, visit SNY.TV or any local Sports Authority location. Mike Nicky is leading off in the home 5th inning. Nicky is grounded out to second base his first time up. Jason Isringhausen up in the Mets bullpen after Chris Young went the first 5. Nikias with a slow ground ball. Jeff Austin just into the game. Can't get it there in time, and Nikias has a rare infield hit. So Austin just came on the field and immediately is called upon to try and make a tough play.
Well, the old swing and bunt here. You're going to play back with Nikias, and just no chance.
There is Scott Cousins, who's now playing left field for the Marlins after pinch running. Josh Tolley will pinch hit for Chris Young. Tolley having himself a terrific spring, including showing off a little bit more extra base power than he did last year. And Josh takes a strike.
Well, Josh went down to Arizona in this winter and went into some rigorous training. Looks like it's paid off. This is a big ballpark here. He's hit some balls. He hit a bomb, Gary, out way over the berm, which I think was one of the longest home runs I've ever seen. And we had the likes of Darryl Strawberry here and Gary Carter. He hit it over the berm. Very impressive bomb.
It was alligator food.
Yeah, he hit it back over that ridge over there.
And Tolley goes down swinging. Wow. That's the 3rd strikeout for Joey O'Gara.
Tied him up inside.
Here's that home run from earlier this spring.
Look what this one lands, Ron. This is a bomb. Watch where it lands. That's out of here.
That's some serious distance. Looks like my tee shot when I'm looking for a new Titleist. Back in the woods.
That's right. When it kind of fades there.
Yeah.
The Lee Trevino fade.
Who up for the first time? It's a bullet one hopper to Bonifacio, and they'll turn 2 with the stretch by Gran. Nicely done on the wide throw by Dominguez for the 4-6-3 double play. We're through 5. Mets and Marlins all tied up.
Just fantastic weather all spring training long for the Mets here in Florida. It continues today on the final spring training exhibition game. And for the Mets, get set to open the season in Miami on Friday night against the Marlins. New pitcher for the Mets, Chris Young, is done, and Jason Isringhausen in there now. Is he accepting the team's request to stay in extended spring training? So he's not breaking camp with the team, but he will be here, and who knows, maybe joining the big team in some capacity very soon. Meanwhile, I'm joined by a guy that caught Izzy enough this spring. Josh Tolley is here, and tell me about the biggest difference for you this spring. I mean, last year you came in just trying to learn as much as you can, and I know you're still in that learning stage, but you came in this year and this was your show. So what changed for you?
It's been confidence, I think, more than anything. Having the experience I had last year with most of the guys, and then just carried over in the spring. And like I said, the guys took me in very well. So anytime you can come in with a little bit of an edge, I guess that definitely helps.
Was there a point last year when you got when the Mets traded away Barajas and basically handed over the keys of the ignition to you? Was there a point last year, a point this offseason, where you really felt the ability to take charge and to say what's on your mind, no matter who's on the mound, that type of thing?
Yeah, I started getting that feeling last year a little bit. Towards the end of the season a little bit. Being able to sit down on the bench with whoever was pitching at that time to build that relationship. So, anytime you can do it when you're in game, I think, helps more than catching bullpens or, sitting at their locker or what have you. I think this is definitely a better opportunity when you're, when it's actually really happening to you.
You talked to me, in fact, on that note in the offseason about Johan Santana and your relationship and how, when you would catch him in between innings, you would talk and he would tell you this, and that in game. How many pitchers like to do things like that in game? How many pitchers like to be left alone? Tell me about that.
Well, I would have to say on this team it's about half and half. Some guys like to sit down and go over to each hitter or each pitch or who's coming up next. But then there are some guys that don't want that at all. And my job is to figure that out. More so than anything, I have to figure out who I can talk to, who I can have. Who I can go out and be firm with, and really just give them a kick in the butt a little bit, and who I got to back down on. So I think that's the important part of the catching aspect of it.
How about an in-game adjustment? And an example we'll use today. Chris Young struggled a little bit in the third inning, and Ronnie brought up an interesting point upstairs. Say, okay, here you have a guy who's a high ball pitcher more so than not. So how do you kind of coach him down? You're out there with Dan Morthen. How do you kind of talk about coming down, but not too far down?
Yeah, well, I think that it's their key components more than anything. Whatever it is that they need to get themselves back on track to where they are, and that's stuff that you figure out in the bullpen. I sit and talk with Dan and say, when a guy is struggling, what is it? Does he need to stay over the rubber a little bit longer? Is he leaking out? Is his arm dropping? Whatever it may be, and then you can go out and relay the message. So Dan's not having to come out every time he throws 3 balls in a row or something. I can go out and do that, or just give him a hand signal, whatever it might be.
Has there been any difference in Mike Pelfrey this spring, knowing now that he's the guy? And I know maybe we put a lot of onus on that, but the ace opening day, the ace, if there's a losing streak, is looked upon to stop it. Have you noticed any difference with him, with his demeanor, with anything?
Yeah, confidence, I think, more than anything. It's like any time in this game you can get the edge, get a little confidence. You need that. You're going to carry that into the season, and you can see that with Pelf a little bit. Just how he carries himself. He knows that he can do it. He's proved to himself he can do it. He's proved to the team. He's proved to everybody in baseball he can do it. So for him to take the task, I think is it is going to be a fun ride for him.
Josh, expectations outside this team are not high, and it's the first time I think in a while that's really been the case. How do you deal with that as a player on this team? Do you deal with that, and what is the feeling inside this team?
Well, I mean, the feeling inside this team is we know we can win. And that's the bottom line. I mean, you go up and down our lineup, you go to our starting 5, you go, into our bullpen, whatever. Everybody knows that in the bullpen they're going to get the job done. Everybody knows every 5th day who's ever out there, they're going to get the job, and we know this lineup is just as good as any. So, expectations, if we're going to be the underdogs, that's fine. Let us be the underdog. We don't need the limelight.
For you to be out there Friday night, bottom of the 1st inning, Pelfrey throws that first pitch, opening day catcher for the New York Mets. What will that mean to you?
A lot. It's I was saying to somebody today, it's nice to get called up, no question about it. But growing up watching opening days is, I don't know if there's anything better. I'll never forget my my first game in Colorado, but I think this is going to be something that I'm going to cherish forever.
Will there be anything you'll think about, any childhood memories of watching games, of going to games, anything you think that'll come up at that time?
Catch the ball. I don't need to drop on the first pitch of the season. We're just going to catch the ball.
Josh, sounds like an excellent plan. Well, we look forward to seeing you. Certainly good luck this season, all right?
Thanks, Kevin.
Guys, Josh Thole, let's go back up to you.
That, my friends, is keeping it simple.
Well, I was thinking, if you're a Mets fan, though, the first time you want to see Josh Thole, who's going to be hitting down the lineup, how about the first inning with a couple on?
Top of the first?
And a couple in.
Against Josh Johnson?
There you go.
Sounds like a plan.
2-2 to Paul Grant, who lifts one out to right. Beltran back toward the corner, and he won't get there. It hops over the wall for a ground rule double. So Beltran, who had not even bothered running after a ball that went about a foot foul earlier in the at-bat, taking a couple of ginger steps there and not getting to that double.
Well, the ball's fading away from him. Actually, slicing would be a better adjective. Actually, it's not an adjective. Slicing would be a verb. There
you go. A gerund, actually.
Thank you. Never my forte.
Here's Jeff Dominguez, 7 years in the Seattle farm system. 24 years old.
Josh was talking about the ability of a young catcher to be able to relate to his pitchers. I will tell you, one of the more difficult things on the other side of it is when we traded for Gary Carter and he came over, and it was very difficult to talk to Gary right in the beginning because he was a huge star. He was a guy that we all trusted, that he knew exactly what to call, when to call it, all that kind of stuff. So it was hard, because he played every day also, it was hard to get that connection with Gary Carter that you had with some of the other catchers because you'd come through the farm system with him. But that, in time, it came.
And Gary had a very forceful personality, too.
Kind of his way or the highway kind of deal as far as when you're out there on the mound, which, to tell you the truth, it worked because this is before charts and defensive charts and pitching charts and computers. Gary was the computer for the Mets pitchers in those years.
We had spent so many years in the National League and knew the league as well as anybody at that point.
And caught a pretty good pitching staff up in Montreal all those years, too.
Davis backs off to play the hop. Isringhausen gets over to cover. And Dominguez retired as Grant moves over to third.
And I just think the biggest compliment paid to the pitching staff, Ronnie, you guys, that Gary said was the finest starting rotation he ever caught, and he caught some wicked starters in Montreal.
DJ Carrasco up in the bullpen. Well, they had Steve Rogers and Charlie Lee, Bill Gullickson.
David Palmer before he hurt his arms.
And
McGaffigan, Scott Sanderson, Rudy May.
Here's O'Gara, the pitcher, who's already walked and struck out today.
In their bullpen, they had Stan Bonson, they had Elias Sosa, Woody Fryman. I mean, that was a pitching staff.
Who's the guy that had the knuckle curl? Bryn Smith? He was there.
Yes, Bryn threw 3 miles an hour harder, and Bryn won 18 games. But he was like a 15, 14 game winner. If he just had 3 more miles on his fastball, he would have been a great pitcher. He had great control.
Yeah.
He was a battler.
Two and one to O'Gara as Isringhausen tries to put up a scoreless 6th in his last performance before the Mets brass, before he stays down here in extended spring. And that one leaks through Murphy and and that'll bring in the go-ahead run as Grant scores, and it's 3-2 Florida.
That's got to be an E5 there. So you either got to take it or let it go. And let's see how Murph plays it. And Murph's always very aggressive. Well, he was going for it. He just missed it.
You know what's interesting, Keith, is that the positioning of Murphy was unlike any I've ever seen at a third baseman. See how far over he is? I mean, he's got to be 25 feet off the line.
He's just short on him.
So it's 3-2. That's an error
on the shortstop, and that's a tough error.
That's not right.
That's a tough error.
It's certainly not right.
I am leaving it E5 in my scorecard.
It'll be changed because it went off Murphy's glove.
Now,
even if it didn't.
Had Murphy not touched it, who probably was going to make the stop? Whether he would have been able to throw the hitter out would have been a whole different story.
Oh, I think that was an out at first base with that arm that who has.
This one Davis will handle himself to retire Chris Coughlin and end the inning. But the Marlins put up an unearned run and lead it 3-2. Here's your Mets upcoming schedule. Remember, all Mets games on SNY are available in HD, presented by IOTV. And as you see there at the bottom, coverage begins a half hour before each SNY game, except for the home opener on the 8th, when it'll be a special 1-hour edition of the pregame show, starting at 3 o'clock before the 4 o'clock home opener on the 8th.
That means we'll be in a recreational vehicle at some point, us three.
And remember to listen to all Mets games on the radio on Sports Radio 66 WFAN. That's Isaac Galloway, who's now playing left field for the Marlins. Scott Cousins moves over to center field. And the new pitcher for Florida is the veteran Brian Sanchez.
Well, Sanchez has done a very nice job for them the last couple of seasons. His numbers last year, he was in 61 games. He had an ERA in the 2s. One of those guys, got a good split finger. Doesn't throw too hard, but usually throws strikes and keeps the ball down. Gets a lot of ground balls.
Angel Pagan will lead things off for New York. Angel's been aboard twice with a single and a walk, and he's scored a run. And he takes the curveball for a strike. I've just gotten a bulletin, by the way. The pregame show for the home opener on the 8th. It's actually at 2:30. It's a 90-minute pregame show. It's an extravaganza.
So all you guys,
that's
gals,
that much more time in the recreational vehicle, by the way.
That's right. I can't think of a better excuse to get out of work early.
Well, it's an interesting time to start the home opener. It's good. Yeah. Kids get out of school. Yeah. Watch the game. That's big. Used to playing that Monday opener at 1 o'clock. It's a Friday opener at 4 o'clock. Mixing things up.
Well, I mean, baseball's opening up on Thursday tomorrow.
Right.
That's the first time since the 70s, I believe. 76.
The season always began on a Monday or Sunday night with ESPN and ended on a Sunday. This year it's starting on a Thursday or a Friday and it's ending on a Wednesday.
And even before that, it always started in Cincinnati.
Right.
That was the official first game.
Cincinnati and Washington, right? Well, things have changed.
We're part of the problem, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Cousins at left center reels it in, and Pagan retired for the first out. Well, I mean, lots of things are different. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, the Mets would never play a home night game before May 1st. And it was that way for the first 2 decades that the Mets were around. Well, now the Mets are playing Saturday night, that first home weekend.
Nothing better than weekend day games. I'm sorry, especially in April when it's muy frio.
Yeah, but TV ratings are better at night.
Damn.
And we get paid because of TV ratings. You know that, right?
Yes.
Murphy swings and misses.
Importante and Frio. You must have gotten the Rosetta Stone for Christmas this year.
I worked on my Spanish.
Very nice.
In the off season.
It's about time.
It's a little late, huh?
Murphy hits one out to left center field. And deep in the gap is Galloway to run it down for the second out. So 2 fly ball outs for Brian Sanchez, and Murphy, who, I'll tell you what, he can hit in his sleep. They got him playing everywhere this spring. They put him out in right field for a couple of days, even a place he had never played before in his life. But he goes up there and he hits, and that's why he's going to be on this ball club. So here's Beltran up for the 3rd time. Carlos has singled and hit a hot shot into a double play.
I also think his high energy is something that the manager really likes. Now, Gary, you were mentioning something to me today with the 4 o'clock starting time on opening day. That might not be the most extreme part of opening day. Might see something in first pitch that we've never seen on opening day in Flushing, with R.A. Dickey taking the mound.
Oh, that's right. I don't think the first pitch of a Mets home season has ever begun with a knuckleball.
Probably not, yeah. A lot of blazing fastballs over the years.
A lot of Seaver and Gooden.
Oh, Lord have mercy. The relish, yuck.
The last
relish fan?
Oh, the last dog of the spring.
Oh.
She's going out in style. I'll tell you, that's the last dog. Wow.
Can you pass the Rolade?
The Tums.
And that's on the outside corner to get Beltran looking. And so Sanchez fashions a 1-2-3 inning. We played 6 in the last exhibition game. 3-2 Florida. The minor leaguers have invaded. Josh Satin is now playing first base for the Mets. That's Ryland Sandoval at second. Eric Campbell is now at third base. Daryl Siciliani in left field. Matt Dendecker in center. And Raul Reyes is in right. The pitcher, DJ Carrasco. And Emilio Bonifacio takes ball one.
Carrasco last season split his time between Pittsburgh and Arizona. 63 games pitched.
It's been an up and down spring for Carrasco. We've seen a lot of arm angles from him, but we've also seen a lot of inconsistency this spring from a guy who will be an important part of the Mets bullpen this season.
Well, he's a journeyman pitcher, not overpowering, moves the ball around the plate. There's a guy that made the roster right there late. It was 2 spots in that roster down in that bullpen, and Mojica was on the bubble, and he made it. But getting back to Carrasco, he's not overpowering. He's doesn't wow you with his stuff, Ronnie.
Yeah.
But he's going to be their long guy.
But I will say that he has maybe not huge shoes to fill, but Elmer descends.
Yep.
It's such a job last season, and that's the role that he's going to have on this team. He's going to pitch in a lot of different occasions. He could pitch in the 5th. He could pitch in the 8th. He's going to pitch with people on base or start innings. He could go 2 or 3 innings if you have to. He's going to fill a lot of roles, and Elmer descends did an outstanding job in those roles last season.
I think it's going to be interesting early in the season, Ronnie, to see how Terry Collins structures this bullpen. I mean, you know K-Rod is the closer, and you know Carrasco is the guy who can give you innings. But you've only got the one lefty in Tim Burdack, and the other guys all kind of have nebulous roles. You know, a Taylor Buchholz, a Pedro Beato, a Blaine Boyer. Where do all these guys fit in? And I'm not sure Terry even knows at this point.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hit or miss, figure out who are the guys. I think the important thing he's going to have to see early are who are the right-handers I have in that bullpen, whether it's Boyer or Buchholz with his breaking ball. Who are those right-handers that can get left-handers out? He's going to have to identify those guys in that first month, because with only one lefty in Burdack, you're going to have to save Burdack now for Feliciano-type situation.
Well, what makes it easier early in the season is that the Mets go to Philadelphia for the first time, and you've got Ryan Howard, but you don't have Chase Utley. Line and a base hit for Bonifacio. Takes a wide turn as Reyes gets it in. That's Raul Reyes. And so Bonifacio stops at first base. It's a little different if you've got the 2 big hitters. I mean, you still have Ibanez, but it's not the same as the Phillies normally are with Utley out of the lineup.
Yeah, in fact, we were talking this morning before the game started. Ben Francisco is going to be their everyday right fielder. He's a right-handed hitter.
By the way, the Phillies apparently have now released Luis Castillo, so that experiment didn't last very long.
Well, he got himself in bad stead with manager Charlie Manuel, and I am sure with the front office by showing up 48 hours late.
Bonifacio runs. Nikias with the throw right on the money and in time. Wow. Terrific throw by Nikias to gun down Bonifacio, who had a pretty good jump.
I don't know if he got him here. It is a good throw and a very strong throw. I thought he beat it. Let's see. Close. I think he might have got him.
Nice. Last day of spring training, Keith.
For umpires, too.
That's right. No, but that was a great throw. Quick release by Nikias.
Well, it's part of the reason the Mets love Nikias, even though the bat is a question. 1-on-1 to Cousins.
Getting back to Philly, and you talked about Ben Francisco in right field. I really liked that Dominic Brown, the young rookie last year, who really didn't hit in limited activity. He had the broken wrist, I believe, Gary.
Broken hand.
Broken hand, and there's a bunt right there. An easy play for Carrasco. Left-hand hitter. I know he didn't hit, but what little I saw of him, I think he's got a chance to be a fine player. And that's another loss that, you never know what happens. That's a wild card right there with that young man.
Yeah, that whole team right now. I mean, obviously the 4 starters are fantastic. Yeah. And that's a given. But Lidge is now going to miss the first 3 to 6 weeks at least with a rotator cuff strain. Yeah. So that's going to be an issue. Jose Contreras is going to close for the time being. But you've got a question at second base. You've got Rollins coming off back-to-back poor years at short. You got Polanco, who's playing hurt at third base with the elbow. You got Ibanez, who's what, 39 now?
And you've seen his age the last couple of seasons, absolutely.
So, I mean, you've got stalwarts in Howard and Victorino. But beyond that, the Phillies are definitely a question mark offensively. Reyes puts that one away to retire the side. 7th inning stretch now. It's 3-2 Florida. Jonas Schwartz and Joe Beningo will debate this year's Final Four, plus bring you the latest news as the Mets gear up for opening day on Daily News Live, presented by Citi, part of the New York Sports Local, weekdays at 5 on SNY. New second baseman for the Marlins, that is Dan Black. And the new Florida pitcher, the former Padre, Edward Mujica.
Well, that's amazing San Diego bullpen that had quite a year last year. Mujica was the only guy that struggled against the Mets last season.
Well, they've got 3 guys on this bullpen that are former Padres. They like to trade with the Pods. They got Ryan Webb came over this year, and Mujica, but Clay Hensley.
That's right.
Webb and Mujica both came in the trade for Cameron Maybin, whom the Padres are hoping will blossom for them. He certainly never did as a Marlin.
You know, he's a leadoff hitter with speed that strikes out a third of the time.
And
that's his problem.
And he's not a good center fielder. Hit deep to center field by Josh Satin toward the wall, and it bounces up against the fence. And did it go over? It did. It's a home run for Satin.
How about that?
He doesn't even know it. He's stopping at second base, and now he'll sheepishly run the rest of the way.
He just hit a line drive out of this ballpark like it was nothing.
How about that? So Josh Satin smooths one over.
Darn right. How about that? Whoever decision that was to bring that kid over from minor league camp gets a bonus.
26-year-old Josh Satin, who was drafted by the Mets in 08, played here in St. Lucie and in Binghamton last year, hit 12 home runs. Now he's got one to remember in Major League Spring Training.
Wow.
Now Siciliano hits a rope to right field, and that's caught by Stanton. So Daryl Siciliano, who played in Brooklyn last year, hits one hard for the first out.
Mujica has not had a good spring training. It was, I think Chris Batinghop was the one that got sent down of the trio fighting for the 2 spots. Brian Sanchez was the other. I was surprised he was fighting for a spot with the year he had last year.
Here's Ryland Sandoval. And he fouls one away. Oh, that hurts. Good thing he had that elbow pad on.
Ball running in, hits the logo.
So Sandoval hit by the pitch. By the way, the Marlins have a new right fielder. I said Stanton, but it's Jose Duarte, who's now playing in right field. Thank you to our director, Bill Webb, for pointing that out. He's sharp.
But he got the name mispronounced again.
Yeah, but doesn't matter. Nikias floats one into left center, and he's got himself his second hit of the game. Sandoval pulls in at second, and the Mets have 2 men on. See, it only matters how you and I pronounce the names, because people can actually hear them on the TV.
That's right.
Yeah, but it's very distracting when you're trying to focus on doing a quality broadcast and your director can't get the names right.
For you people at home, Bill Webb, our director, on purpose mispronounces the name to try to get us to say it incorrectly.
And how does that work?
Sometimes works.
Well, here's Scott Hairston, who will pinch hit for the Mets. Hairston having himself a bang-up spring. And he'll face his San Diego teammate from last year, Edward Mujica, here in the bottom of the 7th, with the Mets having tied the game at 3 on the home run by Josh Satin. Now the go-ahead run at second, Sandoval, and Nikias at first with 1 out. And Hairston hits a blast to left center. That'll chase Cousins back, takes a look, and it's out of here. Scott Hairston doing what he's been doing all spring, hitting the long ball. That's his 4th, and the Mets now lead it 6-3.
Keith, did you say Mujica made this team?
I know. He had a bad spring, too.
Could be unmade in a hurry. 2 home runs in the inning for the Mets.
Wants the ball away. Down Broadway. High ball hitter Hairston stays nice and level on high pitches. And with the wind today, you get the ball anywhere in the air, it's out of here.
Well, Scott Hairston began spring training by hitting home runs in his first 2 at-bats in an intra-squad game. And he closes spring training with a 3-run homer to give the Mets the lead. The Mets have now hit 31 home runs this spring in 34 games. By contrast, the Marlins have hit 11.
And Hanley Ramirez has not hit 1. We know that'll change. It's always frightening when you open up with the Marlins. You got the guy, the 30 home run guy, and Ramirez hasn't hit a home run all spring. You kind of want to sneak in and sneak out, you know.
Well, the times that we've watched Hanley play this spring is Robbie Shields batting for the first time, drives one into right field. He's going to try for 2. Here's the throw by Duarte, right on target. He got him. Nice throw from right field by Jose Duarte to gun down Shields, trying for a double. That's the second out of the inning.
Well, nice try here. The ball booted a little bit there. You're up in the ball game by 3 runs. Take the chance.
What an arm, though.
Yeah, I'll say. Might have been safe. Close. I think he got him.
So now Matt Dendecker, who we saw hit a home run earlier this spring here. And he takes inside for ball 1. I was just going to say about Ramirez, the times we've watched him play this spring, looked a little indifferent as you look at that play at second base again.
And this is a year that his owner has called him out and said, hey, listen, you've won a batting title. You've done a lot of great things in this game. But it's time for you to have an MVP type season. Really called him out to be a leader on this club, which he has yet to prove he can be.
You would have thought that after the incident last year when he ran lackadaisically after a ball that had rolled into the outfield and got called out by his teammates and, you know, basically threw a temper tantrum and supposedly had learned a lesson after that, you would have thought that that would have enabled Hanley Ramirez to turn the corner in that regard.
You know, it cost his manager his job, Freddie Gonzalez. If you remember, they were only 2 games under 500, 34 and 36 when Gonzalez was let go. He's going to have to change that attitude if the Marlins are going to be the kind of team they think they can be.
Well, the Mets get the long ball in the bottom of the 7th. Josh Satin with a shining moment, and then Scott Hairston a 3-run bomb, and the Mets lead at 6-3. John Lujan, who was with the Mets earlier this spring, will come on to pitch at the top of the 8th. Lujan, who pitched for Binghamton and Buffalo last summer. He was in 51 games.
Kind of a sinker ball specialist. If you watch him, he's got a little sinker slider, a very heavy baseball.
26-year-old from Waco, Texas. He'll face Nick Austin, up for the first time, now playing third base for Florida.
I'm going to ask a very silly question here, but all the minor leaguers that are now in the ball game have the double flaps. Is that a mandatory thing in the minor leagues now?
I guess so.
I believe it is. Everybody's going to look like Shane Victorino.
Wow. It's hard to style with the double flap.
Get you nowhere.
Well, you remember the flapless helmets.
That's right. Keith had it. Mookie.
The flapless helmet has gone the way of the white sock with the line drawn on it.
Well, I remember when I was well, not a kid, but when I used to watch the Red Sox, I was always marveled that Bob Montgomery, their backup catcher, used to wear just a little plastic insert inside of his hat.
Mike Dunn up in the bullpen for Florida.
What good is that going to do? But it's the same day when goalies didn't wear masks.
That's right.
So Jacques Plante.
Oh, can you imagine that? How silly was that?
I remember those days.
Crazy people.
As soon as they put the curve on the stick, Jacques Plante said, "Give me a mask."
And they called him a sissy for wearing a mask.
Right.
Imagine that.
How dare they? I wouldn't have called him one.
Well, in those days, none of the hockey players wore helmets.
That's right.
Bouncer for Sandoval. And there's one away. Well, Friday night we begin for real in Miami. Here's the pitching matchup for the opening series against the Marlins. Mike Pelfrey takes the role of ace as he goes up against Josh Johnson Friday night. John Neese against Ricky Nolasco Saturday night. And then R.A. Dickey and Javier Vasquez pitch on Sunday.
And Nolasco, with grave concern with the Marlins. He was being thought that they were going to drop him down to the 3 position in the rotation. He had such a terrible spring. What did he do his last outing, Ronnie? 6 innings, no runs?
6 innings, no runs, 12 in a row. Nolasco, when he gets it going, other than facing the Mets, he struggled against them in his career so far, but he has got an outstanding arsenal of 4 different pitches.
Well, Nolasco had hurt the thumb on his pitching hand during sliding drills early in spring training. What are pitchers doing?
That's a
sliding
good way to get a coach fired right there. No, but every spring you do work on sliding. Now they used to give you these old uniform pants, and then you have to put on these big pants over them and then do sliding on the dirt.
Right, sliding pants.
But now they slide kind of like on a slippery tarp.
Right.
Cardinals, we used to slide in the outfield grass, which was better on the. You get any strawberries on the thighs.
Brett Hayes drives one into the gap in left center. Dendecker can't make the diving catch. And Hayes cruises into second base with a 1-out double. Dendecker, the former Gator, who is known for his defense, coming up a little short that time.
Shades of Lenny Dykstra.
That's right. Sorry, that's an inside joke. Keith and I, the whole team used to get on Lenny because if he couldn't get to a ball and he knew he was going to be backed up, he'd lay out there for the cameras.
We're getting very sarcastic up here.
It's only going to get worse.
The season hasn't even started yet.
We're tough.
Here's Paul Gran batting for the second time. He doubled to the right field corner in the 6th inning. We were talking about Nolasco and the thumb injury that he suffered this spring, but he's okay and he's going to be ready to start the season. But you look around baseball and it's stunning the number of pitchers who are beginning the year on the disabled list. Of course, the most prominent, Adam Wainwright, because he's going to miss the whole year. But Matt Latos, the ace of the Padres staff, is going to be on the disabled list to begin the year with a shoulder problem. We talked about Brad Lidge. Brian Wilson, the Giants closer, also will be on the DL to start the year. And probably most shocking of all, the Iron Man, Pedro Feliciano, is going to be on the disabled list for the Yankees to begin the year.
Bad tricep. 2 weeks.
So, what are we looking at here? Why do we think all these pitchers are going down before the season even begins?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that happens now, that guys throw all year long. And if they don't throw all year long, by January, watching the pitchers come here in February, they are snapping off curveballs. They are throwing hard. That's something you would never see. You always see at least the first week or 10 days trying to at least ease into it a little bit. But these guys are on the 12-month program now.
All 4 to Grant, and so the Marlins have 2 men on.
And there's pressure to be on that 12-month program, because if you're not, then people are going to think that you're not, wanted enough.
Well, those early injuries are going to have some major impacts on teams that hope to contend this year.
I think a lot of it has to do with guys are coming up earlier, Gary, as far as pitchers are concerned. They're not getting the 400, 500, 600 innings in the minor leagues that they used to get before, and they're being thrown into, how many guys we've seen in a rotation? They're thrown in there, and all year long the organization and team is worried about, okay, how are we going to get this guy through the year?
Right.
He's never thrown more than 127. Now we're up to 155.
Okay, well, then it's worth asking. You got the world champion Giants, who were so dependent on young pitchers with Tim Lincecum and Matt Cain and Madison Bumgarner, all of whom well exceeded their innings totals with postseason. And now the talk of spring training with the Giants is, what kind of impact is that going to have on those young pitchers this year?
I think there's always going to be an impact, but the jump has to be made at some point. And when are you going to make the jump? I mean, it's something that you have to do. We're talking about Carlos playing. At some point, you have to take the chance. You have to roll the dice. You have to let them try to build up what they do. And I think that, as far as the minor leagues are concerned, and I know a lot of organizations put a lot of thought into this, but if you are keeping pitchers on 100 pitches throughout the minor leagues, what do you expect them to do when they come up here? They're not going to be ready for 120 or 115, or they're going to be gassed, and they're going to be looking over their shoulder at 100 pitches like, get me out of here. And it's the elite ones, the Roy Halladay's, that really shine through, because they're like the old-time pitchers. They get the ball and they want to finish the job.
Well, that's whole philosophy is getting turned around, and I think it's starting in Texas with Nolan Ryan, and he's changed that whole mentality over there and with the Rangers.
But almost getting damaged goods. By the time you get the kids, they've been on a pitch count since travel team.
And yet you still get guys in college who throw very high pitch counts. I mean, Matt Harvey, the Mets' #1 draft pick, had a game in college where he threw nearly 170 pitches.
I pitched in a game where I threw 176 pitches and pitched an inning the next day, which is idiotic to do that. But, that's what you did.
I mean, if you're going to nurture players to be 130 pitch guys in the major leagues, they've got to be able to do that in the minor leagues first. Satin makes the play to second. The return throw by Shields is in time, and they turn the 3-6-1 double play.
Nice.
6-3 New York. Follow the Mets with MLB.com at bat11 for your iPhone, iPad, Android, or BlackBerry. Get spring training scores, stats, highlights, live audio, and more. Text at bat to 31826 or visit Mets.com for details. And I was just showing Ronnie that app on my phone. It's fantastic.
Unbelievable.
I mean, you can get everything, get every pitch of every game. You click on a player, you get his instant bio, updated stats, you get video. It's phenomenal.
MLB, what is it, Gary?
At bat 11.
At bat 11. Oh, is that the number 11, or you spell it?
I believe it's apostrophe 11, like the year.
This isn't like
2011.
11 Madison, where you're going to have a nice dinner. You know, I mean, this is 11 the number.
It's an app.
It's an app.
Okay.
Do you have a smartphone?
No, I have a Droid. They'll probably have it.
That's a smartphone.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
so yes, you can get it.
Stop exposing me.
This is Eric Campbell batting for the first time. Now playing third base. Mike Dunn is on the mound for Florida. Dunn, one of the two players Florida got in the deal for Dan Uggla from Atlanta.
Well, when you're a team like Atlanta that has a Eric O'Flaherty, Johnny Venters, who can get rid of this left-hander who's got an outstanding arm.
And Campbell hits one behind second base that Black grabs for the first time.
Right fielder, Raul Reyes.
Now Raul Reyes, who's playing right field, will bat for the first time. They're your Delta RBI leaders this spring for the Mets. David Wright with his 14th RBI of the spring today. Mike Davis and Scott Hairston right behind him. Mets have averaged over 5 runs per game this spring. It's been a very encouraging attack all through the month of March. Now the question is, can they carry that into the regular season? To Raul Reyes, 24-year-old who played for St. Lucie and Binghamton last year. Hit 12 home runs.
This guy Mike Dunn has good stuff. Throws hard enough, left-hander to get it by, and has a good slider. It's always been kind of control for him.
Started out in the Yankees organization, went to Atlanta and now to Florida. And Reyes can't hold up, and so he's a strikeout victim, and there are 2 out.
He's cut out of the same cloth as Randy Meyer, this left-hander.
It's one of the best online sources for Mets information, straight from a blogger as passionate about the team as you are. Featuring a constant flow of the latest Mets news and opinion, Mets Blog, presented by Verizon, featured on SNY.TV, your online home of all things New York sports. Well, now Josh Satin, who drilled a home run over the center field fence in his only at bat in the 7th. Got reason to smile.
Yeah.
He's already got that home run under his belt, and he hit that ball hard. Next time, though, when it goes over the fence, he's going to know it and not stop at second base.
Got a bit of a leg kick there in his approach. Front leg kick. A little bit of a hitch in his take back.
Drills another one, a one-hopper to Dominguez. And so Dunn retires the Mets 1-2-3 in the bottom of the 8th. On to the 9th we go. It's 6-3 New York. Friday, the Mets open the 2011 regular season as they send Mike Pelfrey to the mound to shut down the Marlins in Miami. Mets-Marlins coverage begins with pregame live Friday at 6:30 only on SNY. Justin Hampson will try and finish off the exhibition season for New York. And a first pitch strike to Jose Duarte. Duarte batting for the first time. Hampson has some big league time with Colorado and San Diego, most recently in 2007.
It's our last game. It's the guy that you watched in that camp this year that surprised you or opened your eyes up. Mine was Valdespin.
I was going to say Valdespin.
Yeah. He's the one guy I looked when I said, boy, I didn't know he was that good.
Jordani Valdespin, a terrific athlete, and you know he's going to probably begin the year in Double-A this year. You know, and Brad Emis has done a nice job, especially since he got the job. This last week of spring training has been his best, and it made sense for the Mets to give him the job. He's a Rule 5 pick. They're going to have to, you know, give him back if he isn't on the big league club. But if he falters, you know, there are other options down there in the minor leagues. Whether it's Valdespin or Ruben Tejada.
Well, Dan Ugla, before he was traded this past winter, he was a Rule 5, wasn't he? Mets would like to catch that same lightning.
The last time the Mets had a Rule 5 pick stay with them for an entire season, 1993, Kelly Stinnett.
Catcher.
This year they'll have 2 Rule 5 picks on the roster with Emis and Beato. Duarte hits one well to left field, and Siciliano goes back to grab it. One away. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. I mean, it's very unusual for a team to have 2 Rule 5 draft picks coming out of spring training, and even, you know, more unusual for them to keep them all year. But we'll see how it all works out. By the way, Beato's been wearing 70 this spring, and he hasn't figured out what number he's going to get yet. He wants 27 because he said he grew up wearing 27, and he wears it because he has the same birthday as the great Juan Marichal, who wore 27.
You know what other birthdays he's got? Mickey Mantle.
If it's Mickey Mantle, then it.
Moi.
Maybe he should wear 17.
No. 27. He's a pitcher.
37?
October 20. He's got to be his birthday if it's Juan Marichal.
That's a lot of baseball talent born on the same day.
It's fine breeding. Let me see. I'm looking. Yep. No, he's saying it's 10/27/86. So he's born on the number of Juan Marichal. 10/27/86, unless it's a typo, Gare.
So are you saying that he has his history wrong?
Yeah.
You're right. I just looked at Marichal, October 20th.
But if that makes him 10/27, is that Jonathan
Neese's birthday?
That's 1986.
Right. The
10/27 is. When did the Mets 86?
You're right, Ron. They're born the same day. Absolutely.
Born the day the Mets won the World Series.
There you go.
Galloway retired for the second out, and so the Mets are 1 out away from finishing this one off. Tonight at 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. get continued coverage of today's Mets-Marlins spring training game, plus interviews, highlights, and recaps of everything New York sports on Geico Sports Night tonight at 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. only on SNY. Now the question is, are we obligated to tell Pedro that he doesn't share a birthday with Marichal, or should we let him
he just made the team. Leave him alone. Just let him have one day.
I bet you it's the day he's born on, which is the Juan's number. I bet you that either you weren't paying attention to him, Gary, or he misspoke.
It's probably my fault. I'll take all the responsibility. Nice big hop for Sandoval, and the exhibition season has come to an end. The Mets finish it with 17 wins, 15 losses, and 2 ties, and they'll get it started for real on Friday night against this same Florida team after winning today's game 6-3.
Well, nice spring training for Terry Collins. I spent some time with him a couple days ago. No one could have been happier with how spring training went. You're going to have Beltran for the first game, it looks like, and only Bay is the question mark. But the pitching, I thought, has been outstanding in spring training.
Well, as Gary said, you got to feel good about the offense. 5 runs per game. I know it's spring. The real deal is going to start now. Jason Bay, of course, is the question mark. We're waiting with bated breath on that one.
So Terry Collins has put his team through their paces, and now he'll bring them south to Miami to start the season. We'll be right back.